The testimony chamber fell silent as Zixthala, the three-eyed Vortanian diplomat, stepped forward to address the Galactic Council. Her translucent skin flickered with nervous bioluminescence as she began her account of the most disturbing educational experiment in galactic history. "Honored council members," she began, her voice trembling through the universal translator. "What I witnessed at the Kepler 442b Academy will haunt me for the remainder of my 6 lifespans. The humans, they are not what we believe them to be." 6 months earlier, the Galactic Educational Consortium had established the prestigious Kepler Academy as an experiment in interspecies learning. The finest young minds from across the galaxy would study together, sharing knowledge and fostering peaceful cooperation. It seemed like the dawn of a new age. Zixthala had been assigned as the cultural liaison, tasked with monitoring the integration of various species. Among the students were the brilliant crystal-based Quartzians, the telepathic Mindari, the technologically advanced Zephyrians, and for the first time in galactic history, 2 representatives from the recently discovered human species, Adnan Khan and Neha Sharma. The humans arrived quietly, Zixthala continued, her middle eye focusing intently on the council. Adnan was tall and lean, with dark hair and calculating eyes that seemed to process everything around him. Neha was smaller but radiated an intensity that made even our Predator-class security feel uneasy. We thought they were simply curious. The Academy's first challenge had been the impossible math, a quantum equation that had stumped galactic scholars for millennia. The Quartzians approached it with their crystalline logic matrices. The Mindari attempted telepathic collaboration, and the Zephyrians deployed their most advanced computational arrays. Adnan had simply stared at the holographic display for 3 minutes, then walked to the input terminal. "The equation assumes linear time," he said matter-of-factly, "but consciousness operates outside temporal constraints." Within moments, he had rewritten fundamental principles that had governed galactic mathematics for eons. That was just the beginning. Zixthala's voice dropped to a whisper. "During the survival simulation, we placed all students in a hostile environment with limited resources. Every other species followed protocols, rationing supplies, establishing communication networks, seeking shelter. The humans had done something unprecedented. While other species competed for resources, Adnan and Neha had systematically analyzed the environmental data and realized the simulation was designed with a fatal flaw. Instead of playing by the rules, they had hacked the system itself. They didn't just survive the simulation, Zixthala explained, her bioluminescence flickering frantically. They turned it into a resource generation facility. Within hours, they had not only secured their own survival, but created abundance for every other species in the exercise. The Mindari student, Velthar, had been particularly disturbed. Through his telepathic abilities, he had glimpsed the true nature of human thinking. Their minds, he had reported to Zixthala, don't process limitations the same way ours do. Where we see walls, they see puzzles. Where we see impossibility, they see challenge. The breaking point came during the Academy's ultimate test, the War Games simulation. Species were divided into factions and given advanced weapons, defensive systems, and strategic resources. The objective was to demonstrate tactical thinking while minimizing casualties. Every galactic species approached warfare with established doctrines. The Zephyrians relied on technological superiority. The Quartzians used perfect logical formations, and the Mindari employed telepathic coordination. The humans had done something that violated every known principle of civilized conflict. They refused to fight, Zixthala said, her voice barely audible, but not in the way we expected. Adnan and Neha spent the first day of the simulation doing something unprecedented. They studied their opponent's strategies, then began systematically contacting every other faction. Instead of engaging in combat, the humans had convinced every other species to abandon the war games entirely. They had identified that the real enemy wasn't each other, but the artificial scarcity created by the simulation parameters. Within 48 hours, Zixthala continued, they had united every faction into a single cooperative entity, focused on dismantling the wargame infrastructure itself. They turned a battle simulation into a collaborative engineering project. The Academy's administrators had been forced to terminate the exercise when their most sophisticated military simulation became a peaceful construction initiative. But the truly terrifying moment came afterward. When Neha had approached Zixthala privately, she looked at me with those dark human eyes, Zixthala remembered, and said something that still makes my scales crawl. "We know you've been studying us, trying to understand human potential, but you're asking the wrong questions. You want to know how dangerous we are in conflict. The real question is, how dangerous are we when we decide to help?" The academy had closed abruptly the next day. Honored Council, Zixthala concluded. "We have spent millennia believing that intelligence is measured by computational ability, that wisdom comes from age, and that progress requires careful deliberation. The humans have shown us something far more disturbing. They possess a form of adaptive intelligence that doesn't just solve problems. It fundamentally redefines the nature of problems themselves." She paused, her three eyes meeting each council member's gaze. "We invited them to learn from us. Instead, they taught us that every limitation we've accepted, every impossibility we've acknowledged, every constraint we've built our civilizations around, to them, these are merely starting points for innovation." The council chamber remained silent as Zixthala's final words echoed through the vast space. "The humans aren't dangerous because they're aggressive. They're terrifying because they're impossibly relentlessly helpful, and I fear that we are not prepared for what they'll help us become."